Just when we think it's over, we get a curveball thrown right at our heads by Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. It was a crazy couple of hours yesterday as the word first started to surface and Miles Simmons sent on the PFT text chain that the Browns had delayed their media availability for Thursday. That's what got me to start poking around, seeing what I could find out. I quickly learned there would be news. The league inadvertently posted at their communications media website the draft of the statement announcing the 11-game suspension and the $5 million fine. And Miles Simmons and I spent a lot of time yesterday breaking down some of the more obvious angles, Charean. But the thing that really sent this off the rails and could potentially be a problem for Deshaun Watson were the comments. I don't know why the Browns rushed him to a microphone yesterday. Why did they do anything? Just give it a day. Just rest on the written statements for a day, and let's see how the world reacts to it. And then maybe on Friday, if we need to, we make people available. If we don't say a thing. Sometimes the best PR is no PR. Just let it go. Let it marinate. Let it ruminate. Let it just be. They had to. I don't get it. And I suspect there are some folks in Cleveland today within the Browns facility wondering why they did what they did, including giving Deshaun Watson a chance to stand up there and proclaim his innocence. Did they not know that's what he was going to do? Did they not realize from his private communications that he still proclaimed his innocence? That's the thing that obviously we need to talk about. We need to understand what it means going forward. But that's the biggest thing that stands out from yesterday's developments for me. And with that, I say welcome to everyone out there watching the show, and hello to Charean Williams. She'll be with me for the next 2 hours. Am I missing something? Wasn't that the most obvious kind of head-scratcher that we saw yesterday? When we finally thought we had finality, Deshaun Watson has prevented us from truly believing this is final.
Well, and I agree, Mike. That is what stood out for me as well, because Roger Goodell put out the statement, right? If you go back to Ray Rice, back in the day, they announced the suspension, and then the video came out, and it basically made the commissioner and the NFL look foolish, whatever word you want to use. It didn't work out for the NFL very well. The PR was a disaster. And I thought this kind of followed that in that way, because the commissioner put out, Roger Goodell said, Deshaun's trying to do all the right things, et cetera, to turn it around. And then he comes back and proclaims his innocence. Well, I never said that did anything wrong. I was more talking about apologizing for being in this situation. So it was bad PR. I don't know. You're right, Mike. If you don't say anything at all, sometimes that's better than saying what was said in this situation. And I don't know why they didn't either hold off on it. They knew it was coming, right? They knew this was coming for weeks. Why not have a media session and have him practice and get together and know what you're going to say? And I don't think that's what they wanted him to say. If it is, they totally botched this thing. If that's really what they wanted Deshaun Watson to say, they botched this whole deal. But it sounded like he just said what he wanted to say and got it out there. But either way, it was bad. It was a bad look. It was a bad look for the NFL. It was a bad look for the Browns. It was a bad look for Deshaun Watson. And that's kind of how this thing has gone from the start. What are we, in a year and a half into this now? And that's kind of what it's been this whole time.
And you make a great point. They did know this was coming. I heard from plenty of people after the word broke of an 11-game suspension with a $5 million fine that, well, I knew about this yesterday. And I always love hearing that after something is finally reported. Well, why didn't you say something about it yesterday if you knew about it yesterday? But clearly something was in the works. And when they delayed the media availability, at a minimum they had some inkling, some understanding, some realization that this was going to occur. So it wasn't just slapped together. There was an element of strategy that went into this. Hey, we're going to delay the media availability, and when it happens, we will have Deshaun Watson, we will have General Manager Andrew Berry, we will have DN Jimmy Haslam say whatever they're going to say, and we'll get to them. They're not blameless in this either by any stretch.
No.
But I just wonder, did they know? Did the Browns know when the time came for Deshaun Watson to speak, he was going to depart so dramatically from what he said last Friday and from what he said in his statement? Let's look at this statement that was issued at the time that the 11-game suspension and $5 million fine as negotiated between league and union became official. I'm grateful that the disciplinary process has ended and extremely appreciative of the tremendous support I've received throughout my short time with the Browns organization. I apologize once again, reiterating what he said on Friday, incorporating by reference, as the lawyers would say. I apologize once again for any pain this situation has caused. I take accountability for the decisions I made. I take accountability for the decisions I made. My focus going forward is on working to become the best version of myself on and off the field and supporting my teammates however possible while I'm away from the team, and I'm excited about what the future holds for me in Cleveland. Okay, fine. That's fine. Leave it at that. Don't say anything more. For God's sake, don't let him get a microphone and say I proclaim my innocence. Uh-oh, here he is.
I've always stood on my innocence and always said that I've never assaulted anyone or disrespected anyone, and I'm continuing to stand on that. But at the same time, I have to continue to push forward with my life and my career. And for us to be able to move forward, I have to be able to take steps and put pride to the side. And I'm going to continue to stand on my innocence and keep pushing forward. And I've always, stood on not disrespecting or sexual assaulting anyone.
What are you apologizing for then? What are you apologizing for?
For everyone that was affected about this situation. There was a lot of people that was triggered.
But not the women that accused you of this?
I've apologized to all women. So anybody that was affected, even yourself, everything. So I'm apologizing to everyone that was affected about this whole situation.
You're going to take a lot of heat for I stand on my innocence. I mean, I'm already seeing it all over social media. So, what is going to be your response to that when the world comes down on you for standing on your innocence throughout this process?
Well, I have to do what's best for Deshaun Watson at the end of the day. And I know what happened. I was in those situations, but I have to continue to push forward and keep moving forward.
I really would love to know if they knew that that's what he was going to say when he had a chance to speak to the media, because clearly they have an interest in having this end in a way where everyone can move forward. The Browns aren't trying to make him look bad. The Browns aren't trying to force him to take a reckoning that he refuses to take, and based upon his words, he refuses to take it. Everyone's entitled to a second chance. That's what Jimmy Haslam said yesterday. We're going to hear from him coming up. But you have to earn the second chance by truly seeking reckoning that flows from the squandering of your first chance. That's the weird part of this. You have to say, and does he truly believe he's innocent after all of this? And that's going to be very relevant to the evaluation and treatment angle that the NFL could use to slam the door in his face. That's the one thing that keeps this from truly being over. If the NFL is sufficiently alarmed, as it should be, by Deshaun Watson's ongoing proclamation of innocence, how in the world does evaluation and treatment work? You go in to be evaluated, and your whole attitude is, why am I here? I don't need to be here. I didn't do anything wrong. You're getting treatment. What am I getting treatment for? I didn't do anything wrong. I stand on my innocence. A lot of people were triggered. Are you one of them? Person who is evaluating and treating me, are you triggered too? I don't know why the hell they keep using that word. It is so inherently derisive. It diminishes the concerns of the people who are triggered, like there's something wrong with you, not me, because you got triggered by what happened. I know the NFL would love for this to be over, and that's probably one of the reasons why the NFL agreed to the settlement. It ain't over. It isn't over. And this is one of those where you need to sleep on it and see how it feels in the light of day. It feels worse to me this morning than it did as the events were happening yesterday.
Can you imagine, Mike, Roger Goodell watching that press conference yesterday. I can't imagine the words that came out of his mouth as he's watching that press conference. Can you imagine the Haslams and Kevin Stefanski watching that press conference yesterday? I can't imagine the words coming out of their mouths yesterday. I would suspect that they were stunned by the words that Deshaun Watson used. I was stunned. I was driving back in my car from Houston and listening on Sirius, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing from Deshaun Watson. After all this, that's what we're left with. And you're right. It would be kind of over if he hadn't said what he said, if we hadn't had the press conference, if he had gone up there and stuck to what the statement said. Did he even read the statement before he went up there? That's what I would like to know that too. Like, whoever wrote the statement for him, because you know he didn't write that statement, but whoever wrote it for him, did he actually read it before he got up there and said what he said? I suspect that he didn't, Mike. I suspect he had no idea what was in that statement, and he was going to make his talking points and say what he wanted to say, and he did. And now everyone comes out looking even worse. If that was even possible, I would have said that wasn't even possible. But after this, I would say everyone in this situation came out looking even worse this morning than what they looked before the announcement yesterday. I mean, this is really puts everything in a bad light. The settlement, the NFL, the Browns, the owners of the Browns, Deshaun Watson, I didn't think any of them could look worse than what they looked before this. After that, oh my gosh, that was not good.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.